Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the Pactful Information session brought to you by the Jacobs Institute for Innovation in Education at the University of San Diego. We are working remotely, probably like many of you are. And so we wanted to just take some time to introduce to you an educational resource that could be helpful to you, especially in this unique situation that we're all dealing with. Um, Hi, Katie, I see your message. You teach technology and engineering, robotics, CAD, awesome. High school, welcome. So thank you for joining and feel free to introduce yourself in the chat that we have going on. I'm going to share my screen so we can jump right into our presentation. Okay. Move this a little bit over. Okay, here we go. Okay. So again, we will be introducing you to Pactful, which is an app that we'll be talking about a little bit more that introduces design thinking to teachers and teenagers. Our website is pactful.org, and you can feel free to visit it at any time to sign up and check out some more information on it. A little bit about our team. I'll start by introducing myself, and today we have Monty Kalish, who's on the webinar as well, who will introduce himself and his background. My name is Alina Mitchell, and I'm the Learning Experience Specialist for the Jacobs Institute. A little bit about me. I was a STEM program coordinator at Morehouse School of Medicine. I was a middle school teacher for about 9 years, a principal for 3 years, and I do have a background in instructional design as well. And so here at the Jacobs Institute, I help to further our professional initiatives, including Pactful. And my role in Pactful is really that I provide a lot of support for educators with my extensive K-12 background. And so I just try to help with teacher onboarding, and if there's any questions about implementation in the classroom, or just really any questions, I help to provide support for that. So it's a pleasure to be meeting with you all today, and thank you for joining. Monty.
Hi everyone, I'm Monty Kalish. I'm a co-inventor of Pactful and the Director of Technology Strategy and Development for the Jacobs Institute. I was the former CTO of Connections Education, which is now part of Pearson, where I spent 15 years creating technology platforms that still support over 80,000 full-time virtual public school students. So you'll find that there are a number of us here at the Jacobs Institute who have a background in virtual education as well. So that interweaves a lot of the work that we have always talked about, but especially now where things have changed in the world. And we hope that our efforts here today and onward are able to support you in any way that we can. So thank you guys for joining us today.
Our objectives today are to gain an understanding of the context of the problem that Pactful addresses in our world, to discuss how this free virtual software can be a helpful e-learning tool in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic. And even when the pandemic isn't happening, it can still be useful, but especially in a time like this, and to discuss key terms associated with the Pactful app. And at any time through the presentation, if you have any questions, you can feel free to type it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask at that time. We believe teams can build a better world, and that is the foundation of Pactful. A little bit about the context of the problem. When you think about the amount of inventors who grow up here in the United States and the location, the geographic location of where they come from, you see that it is very spread out and that there aren't a whole lot of areas. Actually, in this map of the United States, you see the dark blue areas. Those actually represent where the most innovators actually come from. And those are individuals who have patents on their inventions. So we recognize that where you grow up impacts your access to innovation culture. Now, I'm personally from the South, I'm from Georgia, and as I look over the state of Georgia, I notice that there aren't a whole lot of inventors coming from there. And so, you know, it's just something to think about in addressing the problem. How do we make sure that every child has access to innovation culture? When you look at innovation by race, there's a study by Bell and Chetty who specifically looked at this issue. And what they found is that white people are 3 times more likely to innovate than people who are Blacks, thus showing there's a racial disparity among inventors. And I'm sure if you broke that down even further among even more races, you would find some more disparities in there. And so we want to even out the playing field by race as well. In terms of gender, when we look at innovators by gender, only 18% are women, and women founders receive only 2% of overall venture capital funding. This gender gap in innovation is shrinking gradually over time, but at the current rate, it will take another 118 years to reach gender parity. When you look at innovation in terms of parental income, your chance of becoming an innovator in America is heavily influenced by your family's wealth. As we see on this chart, your chances of inventing rise as your parent income rises, with those in the top 1% of wealth being 10 times more likely to develop patents than those who live in poverty. So in Bell and Chetty's study, they talk about these lost Einsteins. This loss of potential innovation, diversity, has economic impact on our country in the billions of dollars. Entire regions in the US and segments of workforce are impacted by this lack of access to innovation culture. Bell and Chetty, who are economists from Stanford, believe that by recapturing these lost Einsteins, which includes women, minorities, children, and children who are living in poverty, that we can essentially quadruple the rate of innovation in America. So now, Pactful is a solution that the Jacobs Institute at the University of San Diego is proposing as a solution. The Pactful app was created to help teams become social good innovators. And social good can be defined as working collaboratively to create solutions for the betterment of the whole. Pactful is also aligned to the United Nations global standards to improve the planet, and it introduces students and teachers to the design thinking process. I'm going to play this video here for you so that you can just have a quick snippet of Pactful.
Anyone can be a social innovator. Social innovation is all about people around the world working together to solve local and global problems. In 2015, the United Nations agreed to make the world a better place by establishing 17 global goals. These goals offer a framework to address large social challenges such as poverty, hunger, and climate change. Here, you'll develop an innovator's mindset to tackle any challenge and create solutions aligned to a global goal. These solutions could be something as small as how to handle food waste at home, or as large as how to provide clean drinking water to anyone in your city. To make the world a better place, it takes people like you working in teams. Using the design thinking process, you'll identify issues, brainstorm ideas, and prototype incredible new solutions to problems that affect us. Your team will work through 3 phases of design thinking: understand, ideate, and prototype to create a solution for a local or global issue. When complete, you'll also develop a pitch to share your work with a larger audience. Have you ever realized that everything in the world is designed, but not all designs are good? With an innovator's mindset and design thinking, you will redesign the world and make it a better place. Get ready to become a bold and powerful innovator.
Perfect. Within the challenge, students create solutions aligned with the 17 global goals as mentioned in the video, and those are known as the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. These goals were created by world leaders that address social, physical, environmental issues, and more. And they include problems at the micro and also the macro level. By addressing these goals, students can engage within their community to make a difference. And examples include no poverty, clean water, zero hunger, and others. And I just want to add that we encourage teachers to allow their students to choose one of the global goals, instead of choosing the goal for them, although it's up to the teacher. But it's always great when students have autonomy to where they can choose an issue that they feel is relevant to them or something that they deem to be important. So because there are such a variety, it's also helpful with students being able to choose something that they actually are truly interested in studying. Now, let's take a look at how Pactful works. Pactful requires the use of a Google account for both teachers and students. Students using G Suite will link from Google Drive to teachers for review. Pactful automatically manages permissions so that teachers can review and comment on student submissions. Within the software, student teams work through a process called design thinking to create a solution for their problem or global goal. Design thinking is non-linear. It is an iterative process which seeks to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions to prototype and test. Students follow 3 phases, and we'll talk a little bit more about each phase: understand, ideate, and prototype. It's important to note that students don't have to complete the phases in a linear order. For example, if a team wanted to start with the prototype phase first, let's say they have a solution in mind already, they can go right to that phase, and then they can go to ideate. And if they want to go back to prototype, they can do that as well. But they can revisit phases because we know that when you are creating and designing, it doesn't always follow a very neat pattern. You don't have to follow this first step and then the second step and the third step. Sometimes you can jump around and then go back and rethink. And so it allows students to have some autonomy there. So they can go through the phases as they see fit. And teachers have the ability to monitor everything within the phases that the students submit. So after all of the phases have been completed, students will create a video pitch to tell the story of their innovative solution. There are many design thinking models that can be used within the classroom. Our model, Pactful, combines some of the design thinking steps to ultimately reach the prototype or solution. On this chart here, we have a comparative grid matrix of some of the commonly used models. And this was actually created by one of the teachers who's currently using Pactful in his classroom. Monty, did you want to add anything here?
No, it's just a comparison. I think you did. It's wonderful. And it's a good explanation of we're contributing elements into the curriculum and the app, but we're also receiving feedback and support from those educators and students who are already helping us with the app. And this is one of those examples. So we're all in this together.
Yes, definitely. Some of the benefits of Pactful is that it supports nonlinear learning, again, because innovation doesn't always occur in a neat linear and sequential pattern. Pactful's design mirrors innovation in the workplace and avoids constraints, including grades. However, it is completely at the teacher's discretion if they want to apply grades on their own. Teamwork is definitely encouraged because it helps students to engage socially with their peers. Students are given autonomy in choosing their global goal, their project titles, group names, the order they will progress through the design thinking process, and of course, by creating their own innovative solutions. Lastly, Pactful encourages support and from the teachers through feedback loops in which teachers are able to provide continuous feedbacks to students on their work throughout the design thinking phases. And let's take a moment to talk a little bit more about that. So to the right of the screen, you will see an example of what that will look like for the teachers. So basically the students will submit the files or the assignments to the teacher. The teacher will provide feedback and then return the phase. And then the student can make changes and resubmit. So there's like an ongoing conversation or dialogue between the teacher and student until they are completely finished with that phase. Now, in getting your students started, we created a couple of examples of ways that you can implement virtually an introduction to this whole program. So before diving right into the curriculum, we recommend that you begin with a primer activity. In our teacher's guide, which is accessible on the Pactful website and also in the software, we include a list of activities you may consider using. I have a couple of samples that I want to share with you today. This first activity is called the Great Inventor activity. To introduce students to the concept of design thinking, we have chosen to look at it through the lens of an invention. Students will choose an inventor and then identify his or her invention, then answer a series of questions that represent the Pactful design thinking phases. And for this particular activity, we do have it actually in our teacher's guide. So we have a template ready for you. So you can share that template with the students and then they can link it, into your Google file and they can work on it collaboratively if you want them to do that as well. But through what you will find is throughout the app that we do provide templates for some of the activities just so that students don't get really lost in the process of trying to figure out how do they set it up. We're more interested in them learning the design thinking skills that's needed. So, but if anywhere down the line, if a teacher says, hey, I think it would be helpful to have a template for such and such, we are open to that and, more than willing to work on creating it. I think it's important, as Monty stated, that it is a collaborative process between us and the teachers. And so if there's anything that a teacher feels, hey, we could use some extra support in this area, or it would be a good idea, we are open to that. And we just want to make it easier for our teachers to be able to teach design thinking. Another primer activity that you could use to introduce the SDGs is called the Digital SDGs Pin Board. This is being used through the program Padlet, and it helps students to showcase their understanding of the SDGs. Padlet, which is something I've used in my classroom many times, it allows teachers to share the link or QR code to the digital pin board, which enables students to work on it in real time, viewing each other's work. Within this particular activity, teachers can assign a goal to each student in your class and have them post a pin, which includes the name of the global goal, a picture, and within Padlet, it has a link that takes you directly to the internet. So if they type in the name of the global goal, pictures will appear so they could pin something from the internet, and they could also type in a brief caption. Now, as far as the interactivity between students, which is great, you can have your students comment on 2 or 3 goals that were assigned to other students. And they could even, they could post comments and questions, but they could also even like their ideas as well. If you notice at the bottom of each picture, there's a heart. You can have students like some of their favorite pictures. So that way it just keeps it fun, keeps it interesting. Any questions there? Okay, we'll continue on. Now, let's take a look just briefly through the different phases that's within Pactful. And these are the design thinking process phases. So we'll start with the understand phase. After your digital primer activities have been introduced, your students can begin navigating through the phases. Understanding a problem means that you are seeking to discover or research more about it. Students will gather important facts, stories, and other pertinent details through interviews and observations. Now, of course, given the circumstances of our country right now, students would have to be creative, but they can rely on their parents to help them to connect with people who would be willing to interview and observe, that they could possibly interview or even possibly observe remotely. You have to get a little creative there, but it can be done. It's important to not make any assumptions about the problem based on their own experiences and opinions. Students should definitely strive to be objective, understanding that problems are complex and we don't always know everything about every issue. Then the next phase is ideate phase. Now keep in mind, they don't have to follow this in a linear pattern, but just for the sake of explaining to you, we're gonna go in a linear pattern. Within ideation, students can state the problem and brainstorm solutions about their global goal. They should try to create several original and unique ideas for the problem and then narrow it down into one. And within Pactful, let me just make sure I emphasize this, there are activities within each phase that students can complete to help them go through these phases. So each phase has between 8 to 10 activities that students can actually do. They do it through a Google Drive, through Google Files, which they will submit to the teacher. Our next phase is the prototype phase. And within the prototype phase, students will use their creativity to invent a helpful solution. It's a time when they will design, build, and test their solution. Now, usually in a classroom, students can go out and buy materials and actually build their prototypes, but given our circumstances, that may make it a little difficult. So what we are proposing is a digital prototype. And here's an example of a free software that's very teacher and student friendly called Tinkercad that we would recommend. And it's a free 3D modeling program that runs in a web browser or an app. It's known for its simplicity and ease of use. And it's a very popular platform and that can actually translate to 3D printing as well as entry level into geometry in schools. Teachers can create a class in Tinkercad and have their students join in. So it allows for teachers to monitor. I'm gonna play this short video clip a little bit about Tinkercad so that you could learn a little bit more about this option. There we go.
Oh, hi. You like making stuff with your hands, right? Well, have you ever wondered if a computer could help you make even more? Then you should know about Tinkercad. It helps you make just about anything your imagination can dream up. Watch this. From the very first click, you're making stuff, a thing, a mess, anything you want. The best part is, Tinkercad helps you take your designs out of me and into the real world by showing you how to 3D print them. Laser cut. Build them with bricks. Or make things light up and spin. Why? Because with Tinkercad you can. And because keeping things flat is boring. Sign up for Tinkercad now. It's free and works on any computer with an internet connection. Not to mention, it saves your designs for you up there. Be a change maker and join the growing community of curious doers in the 3D fun revolution, Tinkercad. From mind to design in minutes.
So we understand that most students don't have access to a 3D printer at home. However, Tinkercad is great in that it does allow for the students to create a digital prototype that they can use. It does allow for collaboration. Because Pactful is set up to where students work in teams, they can log in together. You can have a team work on one specific project and they can all make changes within, just like you can with like a Google Drive document, which is pretty awesome. Are there any questions about this? Okay, we'll keep it going. Go back. All right, so after you have matriculated or your students have matriculated through the phases, they have to do a pitch. Pitching is the student team's opportunity to sell their solution. Students will use persuasive strategies and narrative or storytelling conventions to convince their audience that their prototype can really make a difference in the world. And the goal of this phase is for students or teenagers to set the stage, build suspense, and reveal their solution as the hero that solves the problem. I want to take a moment to share with you some examples of students who are actually participating in a Changemaker challenge that we're running. And this is an opportunity where student teams across, from schools across the world compete for prizes. And here are some of our social media posts from our current teams. And this is just a creative way for students and teachers to share their work with others while it's in progress. So if you notice here, we have this student group prototyped a recycling poster here. In the middle, we have this introduction video. And to the right, you just see some students working on world's energy climate. And right now we have about 779 students participating in this challenge, over 200 projects, over 50 teachers. And as far as the documents, that's within the phases. We've collected over 400 documents here. So we've been quite busy. Now with teachers of course can post as well on behalf of their students. And here are just some examples of teachers showcasing how their students have been collaborating through this challenge. Majority of the digital engagement is made through Twitter due to our Facebook and Instagram being new and growing. So we have a lot of activity on Twitter. So we have some educators up here posting on the behalf. And Steven Cerruti, if you notice this chart that looks similar to the comparative grid matrix that we showed, he's one of the ones who, he actually created that chart, and then we just tweaked it. So like we said, we love teacher collaboration with us. That's so important. And we also have some classroom engagement with Pactful. You see some affinity clusters here. So you can see that this Changemaker challenge, and if you wanted to check it out yourself, on Twitter, if you just type in hashtag JI Changemakers, you can see a lot of these posts. Here are a couple of videos that some students posted, and they're really short, so I'm going to play them for you so that you can just kind of see what we've noticed within Pactful is that students get really invested in. They get really excited, and so they have taken on like their own group profile on social media and decided that, hey, we're going to share this out. And so that's pretty good that students are taking ownership in their work. It's not just the teachers posting, but they are as well. Then we'll show this one. And just to emphasize, these are not their video pitches, but these are just, this is just some of their work in progress. They just got really excited about it, wanted to create some videos to showcase the topics that they were addressing. And so they just took the initiative to showcase this on social media. So it's pretty awesome to see that. And so if you are interested in signing up for Pactful, this is how you would gain access. You would go to pactful.org/sign up. Once we receive your information, we will create a class and then send you a class code. Once you register, just let us know so that we can upgrade your account. Everyone is defaulted to a student account, but once you are ready to change it to an instructor account, just let us know and we will gladly help you. Throughout the entire process with Pactful, whether from beginning to the end, if you have any questions, you can always email us at support@pactful.org for any assistance, and we are more than happy to help you. So at this time, I would like to open it up for comments or questions from anyone. And you can feel free to type it in, or you can feel free to just ask it.
Yeah, I'd just say I'd love to hear from some folks about your current circumstance and whether and how you think Pactful might fit in. We know there's a lot of educators and students around the world, frankly, who are displaced right now. And so the benefit of Pactful being entirely virtual, maybe some project-based learning. Yes, you'll have to think differently about student teams working together virtually, but maybe this is hopefully an opportunity to engage them. So.
We have a question. Is Pactful an actual app to be downloaded, or is it all through Google Drive or Classroom?
So Pactful is a web-based application. We rely on Google accounts for authentication and linking of evidence. So the Google piece is simply a prerequisite in order to get access to Pactful. And then part of that is because when student teams are submitting their work to their teacher for review, they do so by linking documents that they've uploaded by linking Google account documents. But remember, those Google Docs don't have to be official Google Docs. It can be anything students put into Google. So it could be pictures or videos or anything as long as it's a link from a Google Drive. So, and that can be done with a Google account from a G Suite for Education, or it could be done with a Gmail account. But that's where the Google piece comes in. And to answer Nancy's question, any applications to a higher ed audience that you can share? And Nancy, we developed, and this is a great question because we've gotten it a few times, our sweet spot was targeting specifically teenagers and their teachers, and that's where you'll find that the curriculum and content is geared toward. However, there's nothing in there that actually prevents anyone from a higher level in higher ed or college, or even adult learning could be used for that purpose too. It's just mostly about like the characters and the language from a curriculum and pedagogy standpoint. So you're welcome to use that. Our only restriction right now is that we do require everyone to be 13 or older. And again, the focus of the content is on middle and high school students, but if you've got higher ed students and want to use it, that would be awesome too. You are not the first to have asked. We have others who have expressed interest too.
Are there any other questions?
Gail asked a question, what do teachers need to be able to use the resource? I'm not sure I fully understand. I think the only thing I would say, Gail, is you obviously need to request an account right now. We just asked you a few questions just to make sure that we understand the age group and make sure we're clear on that you have a Google, you will use Google account in order to access. And then we set up your class, and then you're welcome to invite students. Once your class is set up and we've upgraded you to a teacher or an instructor account, then you don't need to interface with us any longer unless you need support or assistance. And Alina is here to help on the curriculum and pedagogy side. I'm here to help on the technical or implementation side. So we've got all of us here at the Jacobs Institute are willing to help you.
Says, once we're an instructor, we can see all of the activities for each phase. Yes, you can.
And in fact, Katie, that's actually true of both students and educators. Because the app is designed to support student choice and autonomy, and to support the nonlinear learning, they are welcome to jump ahead and see any of the activities for any of the phases at any point in time. So you may guide them down a path for your implementation to say you want them to do something linearly, but they're welcome to jump in. And of course, and as we see when people are actually creating, creating innovative solutions, sometimes you might go to prototyping, and then as an educator, you might say, hey, that's wonderful, but maybe you want to go back to the understand phase to reassess your audience or something. And so those feedback loops in that nonlinear aspect are available anytime, and any of the activities are available to teachers and students in the app the same way. The key difference between the teacher role versus the student role is when a student team submits documents or a phase for review, the teacher gets alerted on in the app to say you need to go look at it and review it, and then you can look at it and review, and as a teacher you can send it back to them and say, I'd like you to continue working, or you can send it back and say, this is approved, your team can move on to the next phase. You are welcome.
And just to ask bring up the question that Gail brought up, she said, is this Zoom presentation available to share with others who are not able to join? And the answer is definitely yes. And we will be offering other or future information sessions those dates are on the pactful.org website, and any person can just click on it and register. So please share if you know of any teachers if you think this might be helpful, or anyone, just go ahead and direct them to our pactful.org website, and they can sign up there. We have dates coming up on the 30th and the 8th.
And just as a reach out to, if there's something else during the process that you feel like you need additional support or help with, or advice, guidance, we're here to assist you with that. We want to help teachers, and especially during this difficult period, find solutions and help bring different solutions, and ultimately for educating kids around the world. So thank you.
Absolutely. You can reach out to us directly if you have any questions, and we will gladly help you. Are there any further questions? Okay, well, if there are no further questions, we will conclude our presentation. But again, if you have any other questions, feel free to email us anytime. We appreciate you joining in with us today. We will be offering more information sessions as well if you know of anyone else, but definitely we encourage you to sign up. Just take a look at the software itself, play around, click in there, look to see, how it actually works. And and we're here to support you. So thank you all for your time, and have a wonderful evening or afternoon if you're on the Pacific coast. Thank you.
Everyone.